Alex Shelley's return to Impact Wrestling has announced after more than a year's absence, plus more matches announced for Impact Wrestling's Sacrifice event next month, plus a former Impact Wrestling star officially makes his AEW debut. All this and more in today's Impact Wrestling news. Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestle News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there are plenty of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about some Impact Wrestling. And this is always the way that it works whenever you make these videos here on the channel. So I had just started uploading yesterday's Impact Wrestling news video up on the channel, which you can go and check out. We're talking about some of the spoilers from the television taping after No Surrender this past weekend. And as I'm uploading it, Impact Wrestling breaks a huge story about the return of Alex Shelley to Impact Wrestling next month. And I thought, it's always the way. Nevertheless, though, we can talk about it today because the first match has been revealed for Impact Wrestling Sacrifice 2022 event. Now, another match has been announced for the show too, which we'll talk about in a second or so. But Impact announced yesterday that Jay White, who of course has been making several appearances for Impact Wrestling in recent weeks and months of the Bullet Club, New Japan's Jay White, he had that big event at No Surrender where he turned on the GOD, the Guerrillas of Destiny, kicking them out of the club, bringing back into the fold seemingly the Good Brothers, which is significant considering the Good Brothers were former members of the Bullet Club, and you have Kyle Anderson, who was a former leader of the club. So they're back in now. Of course, you've got Chris Bay in there as well. But Jay White will be in action at Sacrifice on Saturday, March 5th, and he'll be taking on a returning Alex Shelley at the event. Now, this is being billed as a dream match for the company. Now, when it comes to Jay White and Alex Shelley, they've actually teamed with each other on numerous times over the years and competed against each other. Jay White's New Japan Pro Wrestling debut actually came against Alex Shelley on January 30th, 2015, and that was their first and only singles match until now. So they have faced each other once before, which was Jay White's debut, but we're going to see them compete for the first time against each other in Impact Wrestling, and I guess for the first time in America, which is significant too. Now, as I mentioned, Jay White made his Impact Wrestling singles debut at No Surrender last weekend, defeating Eric Young. That same event saw White turn on the Guerrillas of Destiny, ushering in a new era, seemingly, of the Bullet Club, with Chris Bay and Impact World Tag Team Champions, the Good Brothers. Now, when it comes to Alex Shelley, it's very significant, because this will be Shelley's first Impact match since he and Chris Sabin lost to AC Romero and Larry D on the December 1st, 2020 episode of Impact Wrestling. Impact's 2022 Sacrifice event will take place on Saturday, March 5th from the Old Foresters Paris Town Hall in Louisville, Kentucky. It will air live on Impact Plus and on YouTube for Ultimate Insiders. Tickets are currently on sale. So a huge announcement, and to be honest with you, I wasn't sure if we'd see Alex Shelley back in Impact Wrestling again. It was a really weird situation as to what happened, because cast your minds back, Hard to Kill 2021, again over a year ago now, but the main event of that show was meant to be Kenny Omega's in-ring Impact Wrestling debut. He was teaming with the Good Brothers. He was the AEW World Champion at the time. He'd only really just won the AEW World Championship from Jon Moxley on the Winter is Coming edition of Dynamite. And it just kick-started this working relationship between Impact and AEW and all that kind of stuff. And Kenny Omega's pursuits of the Impact World Championship. And the original main event was going to be Kenny Omega and the Good Brothers versus Rich Swann and the Motor City Machine Gun. So, of course, we're wrestling in Impact Wrestling at the time. Now, in the build-up to that event, because they taped a ton of television in December of 2020, like 6 weeks worth of television, and they had a couple of best-of episodes as well. During that period of time, Alex Shelley didn't take a ton of bumps because reportedly he was dealing with a neck injury and he was injured, all that kind of stuff. So that was why he didn't wrestle that match. That's why his last match was actually on December 1st. And but the plan was hopefully he'd be cleared by the time that Hard to Kill came around. By the time Hard to Kill came around, it was Hard to Kill weekend, it had been announced that he was pulled from the match and Moose would be replacing him. And ironically, while some people, myself included, were like, oh man, that sucks. I really was excited to see Alex Shelley in the same ring with Kenny Omega and all of the different possibilities that were going to happen at that event. It really did suck. I wasn't sure about Moose coming into that spot. I went, I don't know, because Moose was still angling for that world title opportunity at the time and feuding with Rich Swann over the Impact World Championship, etc. And ironically, Moose came into the match and stole the show. He was the best performer in that match. Some of the stuff he was doing was crazy. And for me, that was the first time I looked at Moose and went, man, that guy not only can be an Impact World Champion, but he has really improved. Like a lot. He has significantly improved. It was awesome. And then it subsequently came out afterwards from Alex Shelley. He explained the reason why he was pulled from that Hard to Kill match was essentially not Impact's doing, but his own doing. He's a frontline care worker, and at the time, it's crazy how much time, how much has changed over the course of the last year or so. But at the time, the vaccine was just getting rolled out across all countries, and he, was vaccinated, and it was a case of a policy where he was working that you couldn't be going places, or they didn't really want people going to places where people were unvaccinated, all that kind of stuff. So he couldn't, and it was out of his hands. Like he said, it was out of his hands, and he couldn't wrestle there. And I don't really know what happened subsequently, because it's not as if he stopped wrestling, because he has appeared at various shows since then. Just not for Impact Wrestling. He's appeared at shows for GCW, various independent shows as well. He was just part of the GCW show that was in Detroit, right? He shared the ring with Kevin Nash, former Paparazzi Productions partner Kevin Nash, and he was involved in that. And obviously a lot of things have changed since then. So I'm surprised it's almost taken until now that Alex Shelley would come back to Impact Wrestling. But it's taken a while for him to come back. And I was slightly surprised by that, because I felt that, given everything that's been going on in Impact Wrestling, right? They're not just getting the Motor City Machine Guns back together, but also this whole Team Impact versus Honor No More stuff. You've got a guy there in Alex Shelley who's got so much history with not only Impact Wrestling, but also Ring of Honor. It's a no-brainer that he would come back in. Imagine you could see a situation, couldn't you, actually, whereby Alex Shelley is revealed to be part of Honor No More, and then you've got Alex Shelley versus Chris Sabin, one representing Impact, one representing Ring of Honor, and they could be going up against each other. That would be really interesting, and maybe that's what they're going to do. Maybe this is the beginning of a bit of a return for Alex Shelley to Impact, and they're going to sort of put him into that storyline. I don't know. Maybe he's going to play into the Bullet Club storyline. I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't think Alex Shelley was part of the latest set of Impact Wrestling television tapings from what I've seen online, unless I've missed something. So even if it's just a one-night thing, Jay White versus Alex Shelley, sign me up. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be an unbelievable match. It's going to be a great match, and I'm really, really excited to see it. So I'm happy to see more Jay White stuff in Impact Wrestling. I'm thrilled to see Alex Shelley back. I don't know how long this is going to last with Alex Shelley being back in Impact Wrestling, but frankly, I don't really care because it's awesome. It's a fantastic match, and I don't know if it'll be the main event. It looks like, spoiler warning, of course, but it looks like Heath is going to be challenging Moose for the World Championship at Sacrifice. That hasn't been officially announced yet, but it looks like that's going to happen. Whether or not that's going to be the main event, whether or not they have another Honor No More versus Impact main event, because of course that main event is No Surrender, I'm not sure. This might be the main event. This could be the main event, right? There's lots of different matches that could be potentially vying for that main event spot at Sacrifice. So awesome news, really excited. Came about out of nowhere, wasn't expecting this one, but Alex Shelley's back in Impact Wrestling, and it'll be interesting to see how long he stays with the company this time. But it wasn't the only match announced for the Sacrifice event, because Impact Wrestling has also announced that the Knockouts World Tag Team Championships will be on the line at Sacrifice next month. Sacrifice will see the Inspiration, Cassie Lee and Jessie McKay, defend the titles against the Influence. Now, if this match sounds familiar, it should, because this match was originally scheduled for the Hard to Kill pay-per-view in January, but it was nixed from the show due to one of the champions coming into close contact with someone who had tested positive for COVID. The match was then rescheduled for late January, but Dashwood was pulled from the tapings due to unknown reason. So this is the third time they've tried to do this match. The Inspiration ended up defending against Rain and Caleb with a K instead. The Inspiration, of course, won the titles back at Bound for Glory, and have held the titles ever since. So finally, it looks like we're going to get this match. I hope. I would think if this match doesn't happen this time, if the match doesn't happen this time, then you just pull the plug and go, okay, we'll move on to something else. As far as the Inspiration and Impact, again, I was a big proponent of bringing them in. I've enjoyed them. I guess part of the problem is with it is that you need to keep creating, like any tag team division, to be strong, you have to have teams. And I do look around and say, we're kind of running out of teams at this point, because who did the Inspiration beat for the titles? They beat the Decay, okay. Then you've got the Influence, cool. You've got the Inspiration, but you still do need more. I feel you still need more. And I think that will come. You know, you have got Tasha Steelz, I suppose, in there as well, so that could be a possibility also in the future. But again, I would just look at this one as to say, look, I credit Impact Wrestling for persevering with it, because frankly, again, what other tag teams have they really got at this point? But also, they want to get the match done. They've promised it. They advertised it. They told their fans that they were going to see it. And whilst it hasn't happened a couple of times, we are finally going to get it. Unless something else happens, which, like I said, if something else does happen, I would say, okay, enough's probably enough with that one. Finally, I do want to talk about something that isn't specifically Impact related, but he is a former Impact Wrestling champion, that being Rohit Raju, because Rohit Raju has officially made his AEW debut. Former Impact Wrestling X Division champion Rohit Raju, Hakim Zayn, made his AEW TV during last night's taped AEW Dark episode on YouTube. Now, Raju actually debuted with a loss to Shawn Dean at the January 15 AEW Dark tapings in Orlando, but that match never aired. It appears that match was just for the local crowd. So last night's show saw Raju team with Karam Sothura Churun and Caleb Tennety to take on the Wingmen, which is JD Drake, Cesar Bononi, Peter Avalon, Ryan Nemeth, an eight-man tag team match. Now, Raju first started working for Impact in 2017. He didn't become a regular until early 2018, but he revealed back in January the 2nd, that he's now a free agent after his Impact Wrestling contract had expired. So, I mean, again, I've sort of said this a couple of times, so this is nothing really new when it comes to Rohit Raju in AEW. I didn't expect him to go to AEW because, frankly, not wanting to be too disrespectful, I didn't think AEW would be, all that interested, to be honest with you. And that's no disrespect against him. But I suppose, look, if you're Raju was a mid-card, maybe lower mid-card guy in Impact Wrestling, and you want to, go a bit higher in another promotion, you're going to have to. He's not going to be on Dynamite, put it that way. And if he is, he's not going to be winning matches. So I suppose that's where he has to start. And then maybe his hope is that it's a foot in the door and he can do something and something might happen with AEW. I would say this like with anyone in AEW right now, is that roster is ginormous. It's huge. And there are plenty of people that deserve way more TV time in AEW, and they're not getting it. And and Rohit Raju would be no different there. You've got people like Cody Rhodes leaving the company because, and they're for different reasons, obviously. He wanted more equity when it comes to booking. He certainly wanted more equity when it came to finances with other stars in AEW, and he didn't get that. And, again, there are plenty of people, like Keith Lee made his debut for the company. He wasn't on the show the next week because, it's a packed show. So it's tough. It's really tough. And maybe the AEW Dark route is the route to go for Rohit Raju going forward if he wants to be successful in that company. I still wouldn't rule out at this point, him coming back to Impact Wrestling. I think that ultimately he decided to leave because he felt that opportunities maybe were limited in Impact Wrestling, or he felt that there was a certain ceiling for him, that, he won the X Division Championship, and then he looked forward going, well, am I going to be wrestling main events? Am I going to be wrestling for the Impact World Championship? No, I'll go and prove myself elsewhere. I don't know if AEW is the right place for him to do that. I think that he could fit in better in an MLW or an NWA, something like that. But we'll wait and see. Like I said, he made his first televised appearance for AEW. Whether or not there's going to be more coming forward, we'll have to wait and see, obviously. We'll have to wait and see when it comes to that one. But certainly very interesting. But guys, let me know your thoughts about today's Impact Wrestling stories. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Really interested to see what you guys say about Alex Shelley versus Jay White. It's a massive match, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest here. It's a really exciting, big match. Certainly, does it make you more interested when it comes to Sacrifice as well? If you're in the Kentucky area, you're going to go. I saw a couple of comments when we were talking about No Surrender over the course of the last few days of people saying, I was actually at the No Surrender show and it was great. If you're going to any of these shows, let us know. Let us know your experiences in the comment section below. Really interested. We've got a great Impact Wrestling community, or fans of Impact Wrestling community here on the channel, so I'm always fascinated to hear some stories of people who were there live in person. But be sure to smash a like on the like button as well. Be sure to subscribe. Plenty more Impact Wrestling news coming in the days and months, and I'll speak with you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.